Welcome back, gang. It's Deltia from Deltia's Gaming, doing hard mode Fang Lair. This one's a doozy. I'm going to explain it like you've never seen this dungeon before, or specifically this fight. So every single little basic mechanic. First thing up, we have the crystals. Essentially, there's 4 at each point in the room. So obviously 4 corners. And what's going to happen is at certain HP thresholds, a NPC is going to teleport down, summon this crystal, you're going to need to destroy it. I'm going to show you what that looks like. But just be aware there's going to be added NPCs, added little baddies in there. Specifically, hard mode summons like a bone colossus that can hit very, very hard and specifically can one-shot little squishy light armor range casters. So what we like to do is have our tank get that. So the first thing you need to be aware of is just that there's going to be 4 crystals. So you're going to have to damage the boss, get him down a certain HP, and go deal with these crystals. Now, if you're doing damage on top of the crystals and the boss, it can summon 2 shields. So if you're really super spectacular at DPS, sometimes it's better to just kind of slow down, deal with the crystals, go get the boss, summon another crystal. So the first thing we got to do is deal with these 4 crystals. Let's see how it's done. I'm playing my battery healer build, so you're going to see this perspective with some really high-end Microsoft Paint graphics, and you can see my little expression. We've been dying for an hour and a half, so I'm not very happy on stream. So we're going to start the fight, and then we encounter a mechanic right away, which is the Scarabs. So you'll notice these 2 little green dudes. Essentially what they do, they're going to target like the tank and put a massive debuff on them. It becomes harder and harder to deal with the longer it goes. So they're going to get stacks of these. Essentially, your tank can't out-heal it or deal with it. So your DPS and or the healer, whatever role you're playing, need to be aware of this and need to peel and deal with these Scarabs. The best way to do it is put a lot of AoE, damage over time effects, elemental blockade, lightning storm, stuff like that. So basically you're doing damage to the boss and the Scarabs and they passively die. But the tank should be calling this out. People should be coming out and ripping these down right away or your tank will die. So as you can see, caltrops, a couple sweeps, elemental blockade deals with that, and we get another encounter, which essentially is this little red AoE circle thing. You'll see that there's little slits in between that you can stand. That's going to be very important later on. This isn't a one-shot, but what it does do is knock you back, and especially if you're not blocking. So that's going to be very important when the ghost lines come, so just try to not get knocked back. So continue doing damage while you're dealing with that, and then we're going to get our first crystal. As you can see, we look over here left, we got the blue little square, high-end graphics, I'm telling you. This guy is obviously the NPC that you saw at first. That's the indicator throughout this entire dungeon, so you need to be aware of where he is, what he's doing, and how it affects your group. You can see the green crystal, he's summoning it, little blue line or whatever summoners do, and that red little star there, that high-end graphic, that's usually where the bone colossus is going to be. So the best way to deal with this essentially is the tank kind of peel over and maybe range taunt. If you stack the boss on top of it, remember it might push a second crystal, which is very hard to deal with. So if that bone colossus gets up, it's going to swipe at the nearest target, and if you don't dodge, it's a one-shot. So make sure you deal with it, or shield up, use barriers, whatever you can. And then also some of the NPCs need to be killed because they can talons you, root you in place, and they're really annoying to deal with. Once again, massive AoE DPS gets this done easily. So our group is going to lock and load here. I'm going to elemental blockade, little combat prayer. I'm going to throw a barrier just because it is somewhat hard to deal with that bone colossus, especially if you're not used to it. And then we're getting to another mechanic, which the healer is what we designated to deal with this specifically. Essentially that guy that I was talking about, the NPC, is going to teleport randomly across the room. And usually it's the place you don't want him to be, which is clear across. What he's going to do is essentially like a channel, a cast that can be interrupted. It's going to deal damage to your entire group. Now, you can heal through this, but it's much easier just to peel off as a healer and use Crushing Shock and interrupt it. Or if someone's nearby it, bash it. But the telegraph is that huge beam of blue light, even if you're doing a crystal. So that's why as a healer, I'm panning my camera around constantly to kind of see, when is this coming? Do I have to deal with it? So the best thing to do is switch, tell your DPS and your tank, hey, you're going to be down on heals, especially if it's across the map, run some heal over times, and go deal with it. So my little magic Argonian sprinting over there, you can see him casting, boom, range interrupt. And the heals over time did their job, kept our group alive. And so now we're getting to the point where you can kind of get in a groove and see what's happened. You got the Scarabs coming. HP thresholds, you got the crystals, you got dude that's going to teleport for you, and you got massive bone colossuses at each crystal. So you can kind of work on two things at once, which essentially is stacking the bone colossus on top of the dude. So you see the range caster came down, so I'm kind of preparing my camera for where it's coming. And then also we're going to position the dragon dude on top of the crystal. I'm going to debuff it, lay my AoE damage down, and as a healer you can still provide a lot of damage in this thing. Also, blazing spears or energy orbs or whatever mechanic you have to get back resources is vital, because a lot of these NPCs root, snare, and there was a bug when we played this the first day where you basically couldn't do anything but be snared. So very, very important, especially for your tank. So just keep doing this, stick to the basics, use a replenishing barrier if you're having trouble getting one shot and dealing with the pressure, especially as a healer. But when in doubt, do a lot of the AoE damage. It really makes this fight much easier. So once we get this mechanic down, we're going to go into the next phase, which essentially is the ghost lines. And it's going to be easy at first and get much harder. So you need to recognize the tells. The very first thing is we got that blue laser that I dealt with the range interrupts. But also you have a little gold circle on the ground. What's going to happen is the baddie dude is going to go clear across the map. And at the other side of the map is going to be a goody dude, can we say. Goody dude is going to walk somewhere, put a wall up. If you don't get behind that wall, you'll get one shot. So the importance of this high-end graphic here is to understand the phase transition and when you should be running to those NPCs. So usually someone should be calling that, but it's ultimately your job to understand when this is happening and why. Okay, so summoning's happening. There's baddie dude, there's goody dude, and you can see it's a little spirit. So you see how it runs there? And then boom, puts up shield wall. So you see how this high-end gold little line. That's what you want to get behind. The red line is obviously the ghost. These ghosts are one-shot. It doesn't matter how much HP, shields, whatever. It's a one-shot mechanic. So it's a friendly barrier that you can get behind. Key thing here is don't panic when the boss is coming over here, because you think, oh, the boss is going to be in front of me, it's going to do a huge AoE cleave. Not so much. The one thing it will do is those 3 red lines, but continue to do damage even as a DPS. Once you've identified it, moved over there, your tank's there, start doing damage. Don't wait. It makes it much, much easier. Also, tanks will be really debuffed with the Scarabs and snared. So give them spears, purify synergies, whatever you can to keep them mobile, because it's hard to get over there with 3 dodge rolls as a tank. So you can see we line up here. I'm going to throw a spear. I'm going to put my blockade down, debuff it with my infal, and we're just going to rip it and grip it and do damage. So this is going to continue for a little bit of time. You have the pestilence field there, and you got dude transporting. See that golden little spear, that little circle there? The goody dude's running over there. That's kind of going to tell us about the next phase of the dungeon as well. You see the tanks clear over there, debuff, gets that synergy. See, that was clutch. And then we're good to go. Now look at the boss's HP. It's starting to whittle down. You're like, yes, this dungeon's over, but not so fast. So continue to be disciplined and getting behind the walls until the boss reaches 0. It's not that hard. It gets much harder. You see there's Scarabs there, right? Bosses reach 0. The boss is going to get healed back up about halfway. So don't panic and think, oh, we got it done. Nope, you still got to keep going. So the boss, you can't avoid that. Also the Scarabs, that's going to snare the crap out of you. Still deal with them even through this phase. Okay, now, once it reaches 0, we get to the really fun part of the dungeon, which is more ghost lines, but this time we don't have a friendly little dude to help us shield wall. We're just going to have to do it. This is the hardest part of the dungeon because you see the ghosts, they're blue. Obviously, I have the little green racing stripes for you to kind of identify where to stand. It's going to be on each wall randomly, one at a time, and it's going to have a wave. There's going to be individual gaps, but it's really hard to identify these at first, especially since it's kind of blue, the ground's tons of stuff going on. There's going to be NPC snaring and stuff. So once you get here, don't freak out when you die. Everyone did the very first time. But start identifying the gaps, and if you have someone that's really good at identifying the gaps, just stand by them. That's kind of what we did with EMAC and Fear Turbo and ESO. So identify the gaps. Don't freak out if you die because of it. It is very, very difficult, but you'll start getting the hang of it just through repetition. Also, it's important to continue to do damage. Yes, there's mechanics, and you see that knockback. Ooh, it almost got dealt to you. Still do damage. AoE damage is great. I use a barrier there so I can focus on doing damage, but it's not that heal intensive. It's mainly just movement intensive. So don't just panic heal here and really focus on the damage. Now, Yes, another mechanic, kind of similar to Velodreth. Essentially, there's going to be 4 things on the ground, the golden orbs that you saw the NPC stand on. What you need to do is essentially run over them just once. You don't have to stand there. You don't have to just sit around. You just run over it once. And that's going to basically allow you not to get one shot when the boss shoots poopy poison everywhere, okay? So call out where you're going. If you die, it's okay. It's really hard, but usually you want stand or really fast builds to kind of take the very far one when your healers and tanks take the near one. Also, remember, these stupid NPCs are going to be out there, and what are they going to be doing? Immobilizing and snaring you. So as a healer or a tank, you can run Efficient Purge, Cleansing Ritual, something to kind of remove those snares and debuffs, because it's very hard, especially for stand builds, to deal with, all right? All right, time to run to our golden little circle so we avoid the poop mechanic, and I'm going to nuke these NPCs down there chasing Emacs so we don't die. So you've encountered all of the mechanics now. Now you just have to deal with it. So you got the walls, you got the knockbacks, you got boss going up, you got bone colossuses, you got red crap on the ground, and you got scarabs. You got to deal with it. It's very, very difficult. Keep at it. It's frustrating. No one likes dying over and over. But what I can tell you is, as a healer, heal over times and try to do as much damage as you possibly can. Elemental Blockade does crazy amounts of damage here. Razor Caltrops for stand builds. The reason those are so important is because you can continue to use that, do damage while you're moving, while you're still doing the mechanic. So you see a little Argonian. Come on, Argonian, I ain't an orc, but we get it. Ghost lines here. We avoid the poop mechanic. Throw spirits down because a lot of your stam DPS is going to be out of juice running. Blockade, and then also barrier is very, very good, especially if you can pop it and then kind of go into a damage phase when you need to, because it avoids you having to heal all the time. So that's why I really, really like it. Stack and whack, burn, lock, rip and grip, whatever you want to say. You got hard mode done. So keep at it. You can see my relief there. This is a very hard dungeon. It is a lot of fun, but it is very challenging. So our group, we kind of got after each other a little bit. Try to take it a little less serious, but it is quite a challenge. So if you get it done, you earned it. Keep at it. Keep working. It's so fun. And if you get the hard mode, the no death, and the speed run done, you get a sick personality. So work at it. It's worth it. Thanks for watching.